So Steve Jacobs then is our last speaker for today. She said we can get on now. We might be within 15 minutes of running time, which I know will make people
Somewhere
happy.
there should be a PowerPoint.
And do you know what it's called?
Yogic diets or something? Oh, there, right at the top.
Yay!
Hooray, found it. Bingo.
Okay, let me see. All right. Okay. Go.
Right. Okay, I'll keep my timer.
Oh, he's got a timer.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we'll try and keep this relatively quick. I'm probably prepared too much. But many styles of yoga, both what we might call traditional and modern, have a great deal to say about diet, what to eat, what not to eat, when to eat, who to eat with. And all of these can have an impact on the wider environment. In what we might call, in scary quotes, traditional yoga, foods that are prescribed or proscribed are linked to either developing yogic powers and or liberation from the wheel of transmigration. However, what I really want to focus on is what we might call modern forms of yoga. I'm not going to define this. Anybody interested, look at Elizabeth de Michelis' excellent book on this. Many modern forms of yoga seem to be more concerned with health and well-being and are deeply implicated in what might be called therapeutic culture. So just very briefly, there's a lot been written on therapeutic culture, is characterized by the pursuit of individual transformation and personal well-being. As Philip Reeve points out in his really important book, The Triumph of the Therapeutic, I believe the cry of the ascetic has lost precedence to one feels the caveat of the therapeutic. And indeed, Christopher Lasch, in his equally important book, describes the therapeutic as a culture of narcissism, in which the feeling, the momentary illusion of personal well-being, health and psychic security, people are searching for this. Not very good for concerns about the environmental crisis that we're all facing, maybe. And in their polemic, Jeremy Corrett and Richard King have said, also, much of this yoga, modern forms of yoga, become just another product in the spirituality marketplace. And what is being sold to us as a radically trendy and transformative spirituality produces little in the way of a significant change in one's lifestyle or fundamental behavior patterns. And we do need significant changes if we're going to address the climate emergency we're all facing. And this includes many modern forms of yoga, and indeed Corrett and King have a chapter in their book on yoga. And indeed look through the pages of something like Om Yoga and its focus on individual health and well-being, its plethora of adverts for yoga gear and yoga classes seem to support the idea that many modern forms of yoga are both narcissistic and commercial, not so good for the environment. However, I want to suggest that modern forms of yoga and indeed spirituality more generally are not as consumeristic or narcissistic as writers like Corrett and King have argued. And for this I want to just very briefly focus on the Art of Living Foundation, which I'll just refer to as the Art of Living, or AOL as followers call it. In many ways, it's an international meditation movement that was founded by somebody called Sri Ravi Shankar in 1981. And in many ways, if you look at AOL, it seems to epitomize the type of commercialized spirituality that Corrett and King are so critical of. So they say we're committed to uplifting, empowering individuals and communities through a blend of ancient wisdom and modern science, with a particular focus on stress reduction and mental well-being. So Sri Ravi Shankar says, the spiritual quest is to look for who am I and what is my nature. So far, so narcissistic, I think. And indeed, much of AOL is also very commercial. Joining their various courses that they offer is very expensive. I can tell you that because I've joined many of them. And there are numerous books for sale and recordings of Sri Ravi Shankar. However, I've argued in previous publications on AOL, I have argued that it's not merely concerned with marketing personal well-being. It does, in fact, have a social justice agenda, and this has the potential to encourage followers to more actively engage in the climate emergency. So, Sri Ravi Shankar has said, spirituality can bring social change. It's spirituality that can bring a sense of responsibility. And in their wider study, Werner, Spiller and Meerdig have suggested that spirituality can be a driving force for altruistic values. I won't read the whole quote here. In terms of food and yoga, the discourses on food in many forms of modern yoga, including art of living, often refer to two traditional concepts. We've already encountered one, the notion of sattva, but also the concept of ahiṃsā, non-harming. So, ahiṃsā, or non-harming, is one of the core ethical restraints indicated in one of the most important yogic texts, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And it can clearly be linked to what one should eat and what one should avoid eating. So Edwin Bryant has said one can be very clear about the fact that eating meat nourishes one's body at the expense of the suffering of other living beings is completely taboo for yogis. Of course, this is an ethical argument and not an environmental argument. But there is a growing sense within what might be called the green yoga movement that frequently refers to the concept of ahiṃsā, for an example, as a rationale for more environmentally sustainable lifestyles. So they say Metta Earth, ahiṃsā, non-harming, be kind to the earth, be aware of your impact, avoid harming the water, the air, and land. Sattva, the other concept, which we've already encountered earlier today, according to yoga philosophy, there are three qualities of matter. This includes the mind, sattva, light, purity, balance, harmony, rajas, activity, passion, tamas, ignorance, inertia. And the yogi must develop this sattvic mind in order to escape the wheel of transmigration. And the yogi primarily achieves this sattvic mind through various meditation techniques. However, food can be characterized as being sattvic or rajasic or tamasic, and consequently what one eats has a direct impact upon one's state of mind. And so many forms of yoga, as well as the Krishna consciousness, prescribe a sattvic diet, which excludes meat, onions and garlic and so on. So at all art of living centers, the food is sattvic. The food that induces a calm mind, cooked using steam produced from environmentally friendly boilers using briquettes. So an indication of some concern with environmental issues here. And so I'm going to skip a quote here. So in Desai's book, Sattva, the Ayurvedic cookbook, that is published by Art of Living, the food that we eat should be fresh, organically grown, seasonal and regional. Good for the environment as well as having kind of therapeutic benefits. And so the concept of balance and harmony, I think, can be extended beyond the personal to include living in harmony with other beings, both human and non-human, and the natural world. And so in 1997, Sri Ravi Shankar founded the International Association of Human Values that runs a number of programs, including disaster relief, prisoner reform, education, and peace initiatives. They've also, in recent years, started an environmental program called Climate Action Now. I'll get there. And so Climate Action Now, I won't read the quote because I'm running out of time, seems to mostly be focused on planting trees as a means of offsetting one's carbon footprint, although on its Facebook page it does mention, albeit rather briefly, the importance of dietary choice for impacting on greenhouse gas emissions. So, in conclusion, I don't have a conclusion on my PowerPoint slide. In a brief conclusion, whilst it's clear that many individuals in modern forms of yoga are perhaps more focused on personal health and well-being, this does not mean that they are totally disengaged from involvement in social justice or environmental action. And although at the moment many forms of modern yoga do not explicitly address environmental issues, I think this will become increasingly apparent in the near future. And large organisations like Art of Living are extending their social justice mission to embrace concerns about the climate emergency. So in the last few years, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar has attended the COP meetings. And whilst yogic diets draw on traditional concepts such as ahiṃsā and sattva, primarily focused on health and well-being, these concepts can easily be extended to include a concern for the environmental crisis that we are all facing.